HOA Karen poisoned my hedges. A swarm of pests invaded their homes. Part 1. Vacation. I've survived war zones, but nothing prepared me for war with a woman who thought she owned the street. It started with silence. My hedges didn't hum that morning. No bees, no butterflies, no birdsong. Just a chemical sting in the air that turned my stomach. Before I even stepped off the porch, I knew something was wrong. The second I saw the soil cracked, ashy, unnatural, the glossy green leaves of my prized camellia hedges had turned brittle overnight. They crumbled between my fingers like dry toast. I dropped to one knee. My fingers dug into the dirt trying to find life, but it was all dead. Every root, every flower. 15 years of careful cultivation gone wiped out in a night, and I knew exactly who did it. Karen Calloway. She moved in a year ago with laminated pamphlets, clipboards, and a fluorescent vest that read, HOA Enforcement Officer, even though our HOA had disbanded 5 years ago. Everyone ignored her at first, but then came the fake citations taped to mailboxes, threatening letters in all caps, fines that weren't legal, but folks paid them anyway, just to shut her up. I didn't. I told her to leave my garden alone, that my hedges were certified wildlife habitat through the National Garden Club, but she called them invasive weeds. We had words. She threatened me. I ignored her. Then I found the dead hedges and I stopped ignoring. I checked my security cams, but someone had spray painted the lenses during the night. My neighbor across the street, old Mr. Hahn, had better luck. His camera caught Karen at 2:12 a.m. in rubber gloves and a backpack sprayer, hunched like a thief coating my hedges with something that glowed faintly under the streetlight. I stared at the footage in disbelief. She poisoned my plants in cold blood. I printed stills from the footage, brought them to the sheriff's office. They said it was vandalism, maybe a civil dispute, not criminal. You'll need to file a claim in small claims court, sir. Meanwhile, the damage kept spreading. With the hedges dead, the balance of the garden collapsed. Insects that used to be repelled by the plants moved in ants, mites, beetles. They weren't just on my property, they started invading the neighborhood. First came the termites at the Randall house, chewed through a porch column in a weekend, then a roach outbreak at the Lewis. The pest control vans began lining the block like ice cream trucks. Then came the tipping point. Karen's house, her pristine white colonial, with the flagstone walkway and matching mailbox, got hit. Next, roaches, earwigs, centipedes. Her daughter screamed so loud one night, the whole block heard pest control came. Then came again. Then gave up, and still she blamed me. She's telling people you invited the infestation. Mrs. Tran whispered to me one morning as I watered what was left of my herbs, that your yard is out of control, that you're retaliating. Retaliating, I'd been quiet, respectful. I could have done more, but I didn't. But if she wanted war, she was about to learn how soldiers fought when provoked. I started by calling Channel 5 News. Part 2. You never expect a gardening dispute to turn into a neighborhood-wide uprising. But when the smell of rot seeps into your kitchen and roaches fall from your ceiling, fan people stop pretending. The day Channel 5 showed up was the day Karen lost control. I didn't ask to be interviewed, I just answered the door. The reporter, a young Latina named Bianca Reyes, asked if I was Desmond Carter, the Army veteran and garden preservationist whose plants had been chemically destroyed. I said yes, and I've got proof. Then I handed her the flash drive with the footage from Mr. Hahn's security cam. They aired the segment that same night, 6 o'clock sharp, my face solemn, my garden wilted, Karen caught on camera, maskless in the moonlight, with a sprayer in her hands. And then the comments started. This woman needs to be arrested. Fake HOA, chemical assault. Where's the DA? That man served this country and she did this to him. It exploded. The clip hit 500,000 views in 2 days. People from other neighborhoods chimed in. She tried this on our street. She left a fake citation on my rental property. Even one former HOA board member came forward to say, Karen had forged minutes from meetings that never happened. The very next morning, Karen marched down my driveway with a cease and desist letter printed on fake HOA letterhead and a half-burned American flag in her trash can. The irony hit harder than the heat wave. Take that nonsense off the internet, she shouted. You're slandering me. I didn't flinch. It's called the truth. The neighborhood started shifting. First came the Post-it. Uprising neighbors tired of Karen's citations began taping their own violations to her mailbox. littering justice, infestation of karma, unauthorized tyranny. Then came the lawsuits. The Lius sued for damages after their newborn had to be hospitalized with a respiratory infection from the mold and pests. The Winstons discovered their foundation had been weakened from a termite colony that once fed on my now-dead Hedges. Code enforcement finally stepped in. Turns out Karen had filed 3 false inspection reports using an old city logo template she copied from Google. She claimed to represent Subdivision Quality Enforcement, a group that never existed. When they searched her home, they found dozens of blank citation forms, an expired pesticide bottle with a skull label, and forged meeting rosters listing deceased residents as HOA members. Still, she wouldn't back down. She called a town hall meeting in the community center, passed out flyers saying, "Stand against Desmond's Garden of Chaos." I went, not to fight, just to be there. She stood on that stage with a PowerPoint full of blurry screenshots and bold red letters. Unlawful vegetation, community decline, bug breeding ground. Then I stepped up, took the mic, and played the footage from the ring cam, Karen whispering, "He thinks those flowers protect him. Let's see how they like this," as she sprayed the base of my hedge with poison. The room went silent, then gasped, then finally erupted. Mrs. Tran stood up. "You poisoned our entire street." Han added, "And you faked being our HOA leader," and the final blow. Lena, my environmental friend, held up the lab results of banned toxic chemical, banned statewide for residential use. Karen dropped her remote. People started chanting, not in anger but in unity. No more fake HOAs, no more fear. The city moved fast after that. A judge issued a restraining order. Karen was barred from contact with any residents and placed under investigation for chemical vandalism and impersonation of municipal authority. Her house condemned within the month due to uncontrollable infestation. She moved out in the middle of the night, her car stuffed with trash bags and plastic bins. No goodbye, just taillights. But the story doesn't end there. That war zone I thought I'd left behind in uniform. It came to my doorstep again, but this time my fight wasn't about survival. It was about soil roots, respect. And finally we had it. Part 3. You don't think much about lawsuits until one lands on your doorstep, or in my case 12. The morning after the town hall eruption, I got a knock at the door. It wasn't Karen this time, it was the city attorney. He had a clipboard, a USB drive, and the look of a man who knew he was standing on the edge of something bigger. "Mr. Carter," he said, "we believe what happened to you was part of a broader scheme." I let him in. For 2 hours, we reviewed documents. The USB contained city inspection records altered with fake signatures, copies of Karen's HOA bylaws, plagiarized from a condo association across town, a spreadsheet tracking violators complete with fines she collected via Venmo, and even a fake HOA email address hosted on a free server. I laughed bitterly. She was running a scam in broad daylight. He didn't laugh. And the pesticide she used, it's on the EPA restricted list. This isn't just a scam, it's a felony. By the end of the week, Karen had been served. The official charge list was longer than a CVS receipt. Criminal impersonation of a municipal officer, use of banned pesticides, property damage, fraudulent financial activity, public nuisance, civil harassment, and then came the civil suits. The Winstons filed first $38,000 in pest-related home repairs. The Lius followed $20,000 and rising due to medical complications from the infestation. Then the Garcias, the Hans, and even a local pest control company joined in claiming Karen stiffed them on unpaid invoices. I hesitated. I wasn't after money. I wanted something deeper. Something no court could give restoration. But Lena convinced me, this isn't just about you anymore. Des, you've become the face of this. So I filed my suit not just for damages, but for a permanent injunction, banning Karen from acting in any leadership capacity in community housing. Ever again. Court day came fast. The city hall was packed. Reporters from 3 stations showed up. Even TikTokers live streamed from the lobby. HOA Karen trial day. One, grab your snacks, y'all. Karen walked in wearing beige slacks and a pearl necklace. Like that could make people forget the roaches filmed crawling up her wall last month. She tried to represent herself. Big mistake. Her opening statement rambled about property values, neighborhood pride, and how my garden threatened suburban order. The judge, a stern black woman named Judge Alston, raised an eyebrow. Ms. Calloway, did you or did you not apply an unlicensed pesticide to Mr. Carter's property? Karen fumbled. I was only enforcing HOA standards. There is no HOA, the judge replied. And even if there were, chemical assault is not within its jurisdiction, the gallery murmured. Someone whispered, "Oof, she's done." When it was my turn, I stood tall. I brought everything. Soil tests, printed screenshots from the footage, the scorched remains of my hedges in a sealed bag. I told the court how I'd nursed those plants from my late wife's cuttings, how they weren't just greenery, they were grief therapy, peace sanctuary. I explained how Karen never asked, never spoke, just judged, punished, and destroyed. When I finished, I looked around the courtroom and saw tears, not pity, but solidarity. Then the judge spoke. "Miss Calloway," she said, "you didn't just kill plants. You violated trust, fabricated power, and endangered an entire block for your own ego." The gavel came down. Karen was fined $115,000 in damages, barred from all neighborhood associations for life, and sentenced to 18 months of supervised probation with community service at a local botanical conservatory. Poetic, really let her prune roses for people who understand their worth. The neighborhood erupted in applause outside the courthouse. People brought flowers, literal flowers, to honor the garden. Karen tried to erase news anchors, called it a victory for the grassroots. Even the mayor tweeted, "One voice can bloom justice." "Thank you, Mr. Carter." Karen didn't speak to the press, just got in her car and peeled away her tires, screeching over the same asphalt she once patrolled like a queen. But something lingered in that parking lot after she left, something new. Hope, Part 4. I didn't expect to see her again. Not like that. 2 months after the trial, the neighborhood felt different. Lighter kids played outside again. Lawns bloomed. The fake violation signs were gone. And the air finally didn't reek of pesticide. I was rebuilding my hedges with fresh cuttings, gifted by neighbors who said things like, "Thank you," and "You deserve better." Some brought tea. Others just time we planted together. It wasn't just gardening anymore. It was healing. That's when I saw her. Across town at the Riverview Botanical Conservatory, where Lena volunteered. I'd gone to drop off compost, not expecting a confrontation. But there she was, Karen Calloway, on her knees in a garden bed, pulling weeds with gloved hands and shaking fingers. She looked different, less polished, paler, smaller. We locked eyes. She looked away first. I should have walked on. Should have left her in that bed of begonias and karma. But something tugged at me. Maybe it was the ghost of my wife or the weight of the garden in my heart. So I walked up slow. "You missed a spot," I said gently, pointing at a crabgrass stalk. She flinched, then looked up at me. "I thought you'd be the last person to come here," she whispered. "I came for the compost." I replied, "Didn't expect to see someone who once called flowers a threat to the community." She winced. I deserved that. Silence sat between us for a beat too long. Then she spoke softer than I'd ever heard her. "I didn't just kill your hedges. I killed the block's peace. I thought I was fixing the neighborhood, like I had to maintain control after losing everything in the divorce. I didn't realize I was becoming something worse than what I feared." I said nothing. She kept pulling weeds. "I see bugs now, real ones. Every time I close my eyes, I dream about roaches crawling over the papers in my living room, about the sound they made in the vents. That wasn't just infestation. That was punishment." I stared at her gloves, dirtied, frayed. She wasn't the woman who threw laminated fines anymore. She was someone in the middle of reckoning. "Have you apologized to the others?" I asked. She nodded, some, not all. "Most don't want to hear it, and I don't blame them." I looked out at the rows of lilies still blooming under the mist system. "You know," I said slowly, "gardens don't forget harm, but sometimes they forgive. If you treat them right." She looked up, and "People," I paused, "takes longer." That day didn't change everything. But it cracked something open, something deeper than fines or court orders. Over the next few weeks, I saw her at the conservatory again and again. She planted trees. She didn't ask for praise. She didn't film herself for redemption points. She just worked. And one afternoon, after pruning a row of camellias, just like the ones she destroyed, She walked over with a small pot in hand. I grew this from one of your cuttings, she said. It's not perfect, but I want to give it back. I took the pot, held it in my hands, and nodded. Part 5. If you'd told me a year ago that the same woman who destroyed my garden would one day help build a new one, I'd have laughed bitter and broken. But life has a way of surprising you. When you let it, we called it the Greenwood Healing Garden, built on the empty corner lot once owned by a property speculator Karen had supported through her fake HOA schemes. The city seized it after fraud charges. The land sat abandoned until the mayor reached out and asked if I'd be willing to lead something positive. I said yes, not for me. For the neighbors who'd been dragged through hell, and for the soil that deserved better. It started slow. I put up a sign. Volunteers, welcome, no experience needed, just respect. Ms. Garcia showed up with her son. The Winstons brought mulch and lemonade. Teenagers came, elderly folks rolled up in walkers. We planted lavender tomatoes, sunflowers, bee boxes, and yes, camellias in a full arc around the center. And then one morning, Karen came. No camera crew, no clipboard, just gloves. And that same little potted camellia she'd grown from my cutting. I'd like to plant this, she said, voice trembling. Not for forgiveness, just to be part of the healing. I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't a performance. This wasn't a bribe. This was a woman who lost everything: control, image, certainty, and now stood before her own consequences, still choosing to give. I nodded, pick a spot. She planted her flower next to a bench bearing a plaque I'd made to grow something new. You must first face the roots of what you've done. Seasons pass, the pests gone, thanks to a balanced ecosystem and real pest control. The lawsuit settled. Karen paid her dues quietly, monthly, and without dispute. Her condemned house was renovated and sold. She moved to a small apartment across town near the conservatory. She never tried to reclaim power, never called herself anything but Karen. But one day she did something I never expected. She invited me to speak, not in court, not at a trial, but at a school, a local middle school where she volunteered through her service hours. They were studying environmental justice. She said they should hear the real story from the man who lived it. I stood in front of 20 wide-eyed kids and told them about my garden, about community, about how power without empathy rots everything it touches, about how redemption doesn't start with forgiveness. It starts with responsibility. Karen sat in the back. She didn't speak, but she clapped first. Today, the Greenwood Healing Garden is more than dirt and plants. It's where we hold block parties, story times, Veterans Day gatherings. Children learn to compost, elders sit under the shade. Butterflies dance over what used to be toxic land. We even started a small nonprofit, Rooted Together. Karen volunteers, Lena's on the board. And me, I'm still just a man with dirt under his nails and ghosts in his heart. But this garden, it quiets the noise. Sometimes when the light is just right, I sit by that bench and remember my wife. How she'd hum to the plants. How she'd say, everything deserves a second season. Even people I didn't believe her. Then I do now. What Karen destroyed with poison, the community rebuilt with patience. Karma didn't come to destroy her. It came to transform her. And through that transformation, we all grew something bigger than revenge. We grew hope. We grew roots. And we never forgot what it cost to plant them. The end.